She spilled wine on his white shirt 10 minutes later. She was buttoning his spare in his office. I didn't know whose party it was. That was my first mistake. My second was accepting the invitation from Claire, my roommate, who worked in event planning and always had extra tickets to things I could never afford. Champagne fountains, ice sculptures, women in dresses that cost more than my rent. I wore the only cocktail dress I owned, black, simple, 3 years old, and I felt like a smudge against all that glittering wealth. Just mingle, Claire had said before disappearing into the crowd. You never know who you'll meet. I wasn't good at mingling. I was good at blending into corners, at holding a glass of wine I barely sipped, at pretending I belonged. The ballroom was enormous. Marble floors, gold chandeliers, a string quartet playing something low and elegant. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, eyes down, trying not to bump into anyone important. That's when I saw him. He stood near the far wall, surrounded by men in dark suits. But he wasn't like them. He was taller, quieter. His presence carved out space even in a room full of power. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, and his white shirt was crisp enough to cut glass. He looked like danger wrapped in silk. I should have looked away, but I didn't. And then someone jostled me from behind a laugh. A sudden movement and my wine glass tipped forward. Everything slowed. The red liquid arced through the air in a perfect, horrifying curve, and splashed directly across his chest. The white shirt bloomed crimson. The room didn't go silent, it was too large for that, but the pocket of space around him did. The men beside him stepped back. One of them swore under his breath, and he just stood there, looking down at his ruined shirt, then up at me. His eyes were dark. Not brown, something deeper, almost black. They locked onto mine, and I forgot how to breathe. I'm so sorry, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean it was an accident. I grabbed a napkin from a passing tray, my hands shaking, and reached toward him without thinking. One of the men caught my wrist. Don't, he said, his voice low and sharp. But the man in the white shirt raised a hand, a single gesture. The grip on my wrist released immediately. It's fine, he said. His voice was calm, controlled, but it carried weight. The kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to be obeyed. He looked at me for a long moment, and I felt pinned under that gaze, like he was cataloging every detail. My flushed cheeks, my trembling hands, the way I wanted to disappear into the floor. Come with me, he said. It wasn't a question. I should have said no, should have apologized again and fled, but something in his tone made it impossible to refuse. He turned and walked toward a side door, and I followed without thinking. The hallway beyond was quieter, darker. My heels clicked against the marble, too loud in the sudden stillness. He led me to an elevator, stepped inside, and held the door open with one hand. I hesitated. I don't bite, he said, and there was the faintest trace of amusement in his voice. I stepped inside. The elevator doors closed, sealing us in together. My reflection stared back at me from the polished gold walls, small, pale, out of place. He pressed a button. The elevator hummed upward. I really am sorry, I said again, my voice shaking. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, or a replacement, whatever it costs. He glanced at me, and one corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile. Do you know who I am? He asked. I shook my head. He studied me for a moment, and something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. Good, he said softly. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto a private floor, sleek, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. His office. He stepped out, and I followed, my heart hammering in my chest. He crossed to a closet near the desk, unbuttoning his ruined shirt with smooth, practiced movements. I looked away quickly, heat flooding my face. What's your name? He asked. Mia, I whispered. Mia Harlow. Mia, he repeated, like he was tasting it. I heard fabric rustling, heard him move. You can look now. I turned back slowly. He stood there in a fresh white shirt, holding it open, the buttons undone. His chest was visible beneath smooth, defined, marked with a thin scar along his ribs. Come here, he said. My feet moved before my mind caught up. He held out the shirt. Button it. What? I breathed. You ruined the last one. You can fix this one. His eyes held mine, steady and unreadable. My hands shook as I reached for the first button. My fingers brushed against the fabric, against his skin beneath it, and I felt the heat of him, felt the solid wall of muscle, felt the way his breathing stayed perfectly controlled while mine fell apart. I fumbled with the button. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Take your time, he murmured. I moved to the second button. The third. Each one felt impossible. I was aware of everything: the faint scent of his cologne, cedar and smoke, the way he stood perfectly still, like a predator deciding whether to strike, the fact that I was touching him, this stranger, this dangerous stranger, and I couldn't stop. The fourth button, the fifth. Why am I doing this? I whispered. Because you want to, he said simply. And God help me, he was right. I finished the last button, my fingers lingering for just a second too long. He reached up and caught my hand, his grip firm but not painful. Look at me, Mia. I did. You don't know what you've walked into, he said quietly. But you should leave this party. Go home. Forget you were ever here. Why? I asked, my voice barely audible. He released my hand and stepped back, adjusting his cuffs with precise movements. Because I don't think you'll listen, he said. And that's going to be a problem. I didn't go home. I should have. Every instinct I had screamed at me to leave, to walk out of that building and never look back. But Claire found me in the lobby, breathless and excited. Where have you been? She demanded. You disappeared. I spilled wine on someone, I said numbly. I had to. Oh my God, on who? I opened my mouth, closed it. I realized I didn't know his name. Just someone, I finished weakly. Claire dragged me back to the party, chattering about the people she'd met, the connections she'd made. But I couldn't focus. My hands still tingled where they'd brushed against his skin. My heart still raced. I scanned the crowd for him, but he wasn't there. An hour later, I gave up and called a cab. The night air was cold against my flushed skin as I waited outside. The city glittered around me, alive and indifferent. A black car pulled up to the curb. Not my cab, something sleek and expensive, with tinted windows. The back door opened. Get in, Mia. His voice. I froze, my breath catching. He leaned forward just enough for me to see his face in the dim light. It's not safe for you to stand out here alone. My cab is coming, I said, but my voice wavered. I sent it away. You what? Get in, he said again. And this time it wasn't a suggestion. I don't know why I obeyed. Maybe because my feet were tired. Maybe because some part of me wanted to. Maybe because when he looked at me like that, refusing felt impossible. I slid into the back seat. The door closed behind me, and the car pulled away from the curb with barely a sound. He sat across from me, perfectly composed, his dark eyes fixed on mine. You didn't leave, he said. Claire wanted to stay. You should have left anyway. Why do you keep saying that? He was quiet for a moment, watching me with that unreadable expression. Because you spilled wine on the wrong person, he said finally. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? It means people saw. And now they're curious about you. I don't understand. You don't need to. The car glided through the city streets, smooth and silent. I had no idea where we were going. Where are you taking me? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Home. You're going to tell me your address. I don't even know your name. He tilted his head slightly, considering me. Dante, he said at last. Dante Moretti. The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it like it should mean something made my skin prickle. Why do you care where I go? I asked quietly. I don't, he said. But his eyes stayed on mine, dark and intent. But you made yourself visible tonight. That was careless. I didn't mean to. I know. His voice softened, just slightly. That's the problem. I told him my address, and he relayed it to the driver in a low murmur. The rest of the ride passed in silence. I couldn't look away from him. He filled the space effortlessly, like gravity bent around him. When the car stopped outside my apartment building, he didn't move. Go inside, he said. Lock your door. Don't answer it for anyone you don't know. You're scaring me, I whispered. Good, he said. You should be scared. But then he did something that made no sense. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card, plain white, with a single phone number printed on it. "If anything feels wrong," he said, pressing it into my hand, "you call this number." "Why would anything feel wrong?" He didn't answer. I clutched the card and stepped out of the car, my legs unsteady. The window rolled down, and he leaned toward it. "Mia." I turned back. "Stay out of trouble," he said. Then the car pulled away, disappearing into the night. I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small bed, staring at the ceiling, turning the card over and over in my hands. Who was he? Why had he helped me? Why did his warning feel like a promise? The next morning, I tried to forget about it. I went to work at the bookstore, shelved returns, made small talk with customers. Normal life. But normal felt different now, like I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to see, and now the edges of the world were sharper. 3 days passed, and then he walked into the bookstore. I was crouched behind the counter, organizing receipts, when I heard the door chime. "Be right with you," I called. I stood up, and my breath caught. Dante stood just inside the doorway, hands in his pockets, his dark eyes scanning the small shop before landing on me. He looked completely out of place, too polished, too powerful, like a wolf in a garden. "What are you doing here?" I breathed. "Buying a book," he said calmly. "How did you told me your address. It wasn't hard to find out where you work." That should have terrified me. Instead, my heart raced for an entirely different reason. He moved through the store slowly, trailing his fingers along the spines of books. I watched him, unable to look away. "Do you read often?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. "When I have time." "What kind of books?" He glanced at me, and there was that faint trace of amusement again. "The kind with unhappy endings." "Why?" "Because they're honest." He pulled a book from the shelf, something old, leather-bound, and brought it to the counter. I rang it up with trembling hands. "You didn't call," he said quietly. Nothing felt wrong. Good. He paid in cash, his fingers brushing mine as he took the receipt. "Dante," I said before he could leave. He paused. "Why are you really here?" He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression, something almost conflicted. "Because I wanted to make sure you were safe," he said finally. "From what?" "From me," he said softly. And then he left. I saw him 3 more times that week. Once across the street from the bookstore, leaning against a black car, watching. Once in a cafe where I stopped for coffee, sitting in the corner with a newspaper he never read. Once outside my apartment building, late at night, a shadow in the streetlight that disappeared when I looked directly at it. He was following me. I should have been afraid. I should have called the police. Instead, I called the number on his card. He answered on the first ring. "Mia." Just my name. Like he'd been waiting. "Are you following me?" I asked, my voice shaking. Silence. "Are you?" I demanded. "Yes." The honesty stunned me. "Why?" "Because someone else is too," he said. The world tilted. "What?" I whispered. "Stay inside tonight. Lock your door. I'll handle it. Don't. Trust me, Mia." The line went dead. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, my entire body shaking. Trust him? I didn't even know him, but I did what he said. I locked my door, drew the curtains, sat on my couch in the darkness, my heart hammering against my ribs. An hour passed, then another. At midnight, there was a knock. I froze. "It's me." Dante's voice came through the door. I looked through the peephole. He stood alone, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt sleeves rolled up. There was blood on his knuckles. I unlocked the door with shaking hands. He stepped inside, his eyes scanning the apartment, assessing, cataloging. "Are you hurt?" I asked, staring at his hands. "No." "Whose blood?" "Someone who won't bother you again," he said quietly. He moved to my sink without asking, turning on the water, washing the blood away with methodical precision. I watched, frozen. "You need to tell me what's happening," I said, my voice barely steady. He dried his hands on a towel, then turned to face me. "You spilled wine on me at Vittorio Marchese's engagement party," he said. "Do you know who that is?" I shook my head. "He runs the Marchese family. They control half the city, and my family controls the other half." The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did. "You're your Mafia," I breathed. "Yes." The room spun. "And because people saw me with you? They think you matter to me," he finished. "So now you're leverage." "But I don't," I said desperately. "I don't matter to you. We don't even know each other." He stepped closer, and I backed into the counter. "That's what I've been trying to convince them," he said softly. "But the more I protect you, the less they believe me." "Then stop protecting me." "I can't." "Why not?" He looked at me, and for the first time, something raw flickered across his face. "Because you looked at me like I was just a man," he said quietly. "And no one has done that in a very long time." My breath caught. "I'm not worth dying for," I whispered. "That's not your decision to make." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from my face. His touch was gentle, careful. "Pack a bag," he said. "What?" "You can't stay here. It's not safe anymore." "Where am I supposed to go?" "With me. I can't just leave my life." "Your life," he interrupted, "is worth more than your apartment." I stared at him, my chest tight. "I don't have a choice, do I?" "You always have a choice, Mia," he said. "But if you stay here, someone will use you to hurt me, and I will do terrible things to stop that from happening." The weight of his words settled over me like a shroud. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know." I looked around my tiny apartment, the life I'd built, small and safe and mine. Then I looked back at him, at the blood he'd washed from his hands, at the darkness in his eyes that somehow made me feel safer than I'd ever felt before. "Give me 10 minutes, I said. He took me to a house on the edge of the city. Not a house, an estate. High walls, iron gates, security cameras I could see, and probably dozens I couldn't. The car pulled into a circular driveway, and I stared up at the mansion through the window. "This is where you live?" I asked. "This is where you'll be safe," he said. He led me inside, through marble halls and past rooms filled with expensive furniture I was afraid to touch, up a grand staircase, down a quiet corridor. He opened a door to a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. "This is yours," he said. "Private bathroom. Everything you need. If you need anything else, tell Marco. He's head of security. He'll be outside your door." "You're putting a guard on me?" "Yes." "Am I a prisoner?" "You're protected," he said firmly. "There's a difference." I walked into the room slowly, setting my bag down on the bed. "I have to work tomorrow," I said. "I'll call them. Tell them you're sick. I can't just disappear." "You can," he said. "And you will. Until this is over." He turned to leave, and panic flared in my chest. "Dante." He stopped, his hand on the doorframe. "I'm scared," I admitted. He looked back at me, and his expression softened in a way I hadn't seen before. "I know," he said quietly, "but I promise you, Mia, no one will touch you. Not while I'm breathing." And somehow, impossibly, I believed him. The first 2 days, I barely saw him. I stayed in my room mostly, venturing out only for meals that were brought to me by silent staff who avoided eye contact. Marco stood outside my door, a wall of muscle in a dark suit. He nodded when I passed, but never spoke. The house was beautiful and suffocating. I felt like a bird in a gilded cage. On the 3rd day, I couldn't stand it anymore. I left my room and wandered. The house was massive libraries, sitting rooms, a dining room that could seat 20. But it felt empty, lonely. Like all this luxury was just decoration for something hollow beneath. I found Dante in his office. The door was open, and he sat behind a large desk, reading something on his phone, his jaw tight. I knocked softly. He looked up, and surprise flickered across his face. "You're supposed to stay in your room," he said. "I'm going crazy in there." He studied me for a moment, then gestured to the chair across from him. I sat, folding my hands in my lap. "How long do I have to stay here?" I asked. "I don't know yet." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." I looked down at my hands. "What happens if they find me anyway?" "They won't. But if they do, they won't, Mia." His voice turned hard. "I won't let them." The certainty in his tone should have comforted me. Instead, it made me realize how much danger I was truly in. "Can I ask you something?" I said quietly. He nodded. Why do you do this? The family business. Can't you just leave? A bitter smile touched his lips. You don't leave this life. You're born into it, and you die in it. That's horrible. That's reality. But you could choose something different. He looked at me, and something painful crossed his face. I did choose once, he said softly. I tried to walk away, build something clean, something normal. What happened? They killed everyone I cared about. The words landed like stones. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson. What lesson? That caring makes you weak. He stood, crossing to the window, his back to me. So why am I here? I asked. If you don't care, why protect me? He was silent for a long time. Because I should have let you walk away that first night, he said finally. And I didn't. So now you're my responsibility. That's all I am? A responsibility? He turned back, and his eyes met mine dark, unreadable, burning with something I couldn't name. Yes, he said, but the way he looked at me made it feel like a lie. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard voices downstairs, low, urgent. Men arguing. I crept to my door and opened it a crack. Marco glanced back at me. Stay inside, miss. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about, but his hand rested on the gun at his hip. I closed the door, my heart racing. An hour later, the voices stopped. I heard footsteps in the hall, a soft knock. Mia, Dante's voice. I opened the door. He stood there, still dressed, his tie loosened, exhaustion carved into his features. Everything all right? I asked. For now. You look tired. I am. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, he looked almost human. Vulnerable. You should sleep, I said. So should you. We stood there in the doorway, the space between us charged with something I didn't understand. Can I ask you something else? I said. He nodded. That night, when I buttoned your shirt, why did you make me do that? His gaze held mine, steady and intense. Because I wanted to see if you'd run, he said quietly. And? You didn't. Should I have? His jaw tightened. Yes. But he didn't move, didn't leave. Good night, Mia, he said finally. Good night, Dante. He turned and walked away, and I closed the door, my hands shaking. Whatever this was, this strange, dangerous pull between us, it was getting harder to ignore. The attack came on the 7th day. I was in the library, trying to lose myself in a book, when the house suddenly erupted. Shouts, gunfire. I dropped the book, my heart seizing. The door flew open, and Marco grabbed my arm. With me. Now. He pulled me into the hallway, his gun drawn, his body positioned between me and whatever was happening downstairs. More gunfire. Closer now. What's happening? I gasped. Breach. South entrance. He pushed me into a narrow corridor I hadn't seen before, a hidden passage, and closed the wall panel behind us. Everything went dark. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Marco. Quiet, he hissed. We moved through the darkness, his hand on my arm, guiding me. Then the panel ahead opened, and light spilled in. Dante stood there, gun in hand, his eyes fierce. Get her to the safe room, he ordered Marco. You're coming too. Go, now. Marco pulled me forward, but I twisted back. Don't. His eyes met mine, and for just a second, something raw flashed across his face. I'll find you, he said. Then he disappeared back into the chaos. The safe room was deep in the basement, steel walls, reinforced door, monitors showing every angle of the house. Marco sealed us inside. On the screens, I watched Dante and his men move through the house like shadows. Efficient, lethal, and then I saw him engage. 3 men in tactical gear. Dante moved like violence made elegant, precise, brutal, unstoppable. I pressed my hand to my mouth, unable to look away. He was terrifying, and I shouldn't have felt safer because of it, but I did. The fight ended in minutes. The intruders were either dead or fleeing. Stay here, Marco said, and left before I could protest. I sat alone in the steel room, shaking, the adrenaline slowly draining from my body. The door opened 20 minutes later. Dante stepped inside. He had blood on his shirt, not his. I thought desperately, and his knuckles were split. He crossed to me in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of the chair. His hands framed my face, tilting it up, his eyes searching mine. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, I'm fine. Are you?" "I'm fine." But he didn't let go. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones, his touch gentle despite the violence still humming through him. "This is my fault," he said, his voice rough. "I should have moved you somewhere safer. You saved me. I put you in danger in the first place. Don't. You should hate me, Mia." I looked into his eyes, those dark, dangerous eyes, and shook my head. "I don't," I whispered. His jaw clenched. His hands tightened on my face. "You should," he said again, but he didn't move away. Neither did I. The air between us turned thick, heavy with everything we weren't saying. "I keep trying to keep my distance," he said quietly. "I keep trying to treat you like a problem I need to solve. I know, but you make it impossible. I'm not doing anything. That's the problem," he breathed. "You're just you, and every time you look at me like that—" "Like what?" "Like I'm not a monster." My heart cracked. "You're not," I said. "Yes, I am." "Then why do I feel safest when you're near?" He closed his eyes, something like pain crossing his face. When he opened them again, they were burning. "Because you don't know better," he said, but his hands still held my face. His forehead dropped to rest against mine. We stayed like that, breathing each other's air, balanced on the edge of something neither of us could name. "I should let you go," he whispered. "But you won't." "No," he said, "I won't." He moved me that night, not to another house, to his room. "I'm not letting you out of my sight," he said, and his tone left no room for argument. His room was at the center of the house, the most secure location. Large bed, dark furniture, windows with bulletproof glass. "I'll sleep on the couch," he said, nodding to the leather sofa near the window. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Because sharing a bed would cross a line we couldn't uncross. I changed in the bathroom, putting on the oversized shirt I slept in, my hands shaking. When I came out, he was standing by the window, staring out at the dark grounds. He'd changed to dark pants, no shirt. I tried not to stare at the scars marking his back, at the lean muscle, at the evidence of a life lived in violence. "You should sleep," he said without turning. "So should you." "I will." But I knew he wouldn't. I climbed into his bed, his scent on the pillows, cedar and smoke, and pulled the covers up. "Dante." "Yes?" "Thank you for protecting me." He turned then, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. "I would burn this city down before I let anyone hurt you," he said quietly, and I believed him. Living in his room changed things. Not physically, he kept his distance, slept on the couch, never touched me unless necessary. But emotionally, the walls between us crumbled. I watched him work late into the night, his face lit by the glow of his laptop. Watched him pace during tense phone calls, his jaw tight. Watched him carry the weight of an empire on his shoulders without complaint. And slowly, I began to see him. Not the monster he thought he was, but the man beneath. "Tell me something real," I said one night. We were both awake, me in his bed, him on the couch. The darkness made it easier to talk. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "Anything. Something no one else knows." He was quiet for a long time. "I wanted to be a doctor," he said finally. I turned toward his voice, surprised. "Really?" "When I was young. Before I understood what I was born into." His voice was soft, almost wistful. "I thought I could save people." "You still could." He laughed, but it was hollow. "I've killed more people than I could ever save." "That doesn't mean—" "It means exactly that, Mia." He sat up, and I could see his silhouette in the moonlight. "I'm not a good man. I never will be. You saved me. That doesn't make me good. That makes me selfish." "How is that selfish?" "Because I did it for me," he said, his voice rough. "Not for you." I slipped out of bed and crossed to the couch before I could stop myself. He looked up, startled, as I sat beside him. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Sitting with you." "Mia, you don't have to be alone all the time," I said quietly. His jaw clenched. "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because if I'm not, I'll do something I can't take back." The air shifted. I should have moved away, should have gone back to bed. But I didn't. Like what? I whispered. He turned to face me, and the look in his eyes made my pulse race. Like this, he breathed, and he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry, like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally broke. His hand cupped the back of my neck, his mouth claiming mine with an intensity that stole my breath. I gasped against him, and he pulled back immediately. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice ragged. "I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize," I whispered. "Mia." I kissed him this time, tentative, uncertain, but wanting. He groaned low in his throat, his hands tightening on me. "We can't," he said against my mouth. "Why?" "Because you deserve better than this, better than me." "What if I don't want better?" He pulled back, framing my face with his hands, his eyes searching mine. "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do. You're safe here because I'm keeping my distance. If I cross that line, maybe I want you to cross it." His breath hitched. His thumb traced my lower lip. "You're killing me," he whispered. "Then stop fighting it. I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection from you, Dante. I trailed off, unable to finish. "What?" he asked roughly. "What do you need?" "You," I admitted. The word hung between us. He closed his eyes, his forehead dropping to mine. "You're going to destroy me," he said softly. "Or maybe save you." He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, like he was memorizing the taste of me. Then he pulled away, his breathing unsteady. "Not yet," he said. "Not like this. Not when you're still scared." "I'm not scared of you." "You should be." He stood, putting distance between us, his hands clenched at his sides. "Go back to bed, Mia." "Dante, please." The word broke something in me. I went back to bed, my heart racing, my lips still tingling. And I knew, in that moment, that I was falling for a man who believed he was beyond saving. The next morning, he was gone. Marco told me he'd left early for a meeting. I spent the day restless, unable to focus, replaying the kiss over and over. He didn't return until late that night. When he finally came into the room, he looked exhausted, dangerous. "Are you all right?" I asked. "Fine." But he wasn't. I could see it in the tension in his shoulders, the darkness in his eyes. "What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about." "Dante." He crossed to me in 2 strides, and before I could speak, he pulled me into his arms, just held me, his face buried in my hair, his breath unsteady. "I had to make a choice today," he said quietly. "Someone had to die." My heart clenched. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's what I am." But his arms tightened around me, like I was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. "You're more than that," I whispered. "Not in this world." We stood there in the darkness, holding each other, and I realized something terrifying. I didn't just care about him. I was falling in love with him. It happened 3 nights later. We'd fallen into a rhythm, quiet conversations in the dark, stolen glances, careful distance during the day. But the tension was unbearable. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of him on the couch. "Dante," I whispered. "I'm awake. Can I ask you something?" "Always." I hesitated. "Do you regret it? The kiss?" Silence, then the sound of him moving. Standing. He crossed to the bed and sat on the edge, his eyes finding mine in the darkness. "No," he said quietly. "I regret that I can't do it again." "Why can't you?" "Because if I start, I won't stop." My breath caught. "What if I don't want you to stop?" His jaw clenched. "Mia." "I'm not confused. I'm not scared." My voice shook, but I pushed forward. "I know what I'm saying." "You don't know what you're asking." "Then show me." He closed his eyes, his hands fisting in the sheets. "You're going to regret this," he said roughly. "No, I won't. I'm not a good man, Mia. I can't give you flowers and promises and a normal life. I don't want normal," I whispered. "I just want you." He opened his eyes, and the look in them made my heart stop. "If we do this," he said slowly, "there's no going back. You'll be mine, completely." The word should have frightened me. Instead, it made something deep inside me unfurl. "Okay," I breathed. He leaned closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. Say it, he said, his voice low and rough. Say what? That you want this, that you're sure. I met his eyes, my heart pounding. I want this, I whispered. I'm sure. He kissed me. It was different this time. Slower, deeper, like he was savoring every second. His hands were gentle as they traced my face, my neck, my shoulders. Like I was something precious he was afraid to break. Tell me if you want me to stop, he murmured against my mouth. I don't want you to stop. He pulled back just enough to search my eyes. You're trembling, he said softly. I know. Are you scared? A little, I admitted. Of me? Of this, of how much I want it. Something raw flashed across his face. We can wait, he said. I kissed him, cutting off his words. I don't want to wait, I whispered against his lips. He groaned, his control fracturing. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back, deepening the kiss until I couldn't think. Mia, he breathed, and my name on his lips sounded like a prayer. He eased me back against the pillows, his body covering mine, careful not to crush me. His lips traced a path down my jaw, my neck, the hollow of my throat. I gasped, my hands clutching his shoulders. Tell me what you want, he murmured against my skin. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words. Mia, you, I managed. I want you. His breath hitched. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes dark and burning. You have me, he said quietly. You've had me since the moment you looked at me with those wide, terrified eyes and apologized for something that wasn't your fault. My chest tightened. Dante. He kissed me again, swallowing whatever I was going to say. His hands were patient, reverent, like he was memorizing every inch of me. And when he finally made me his, slowly, carefully, giving me time to adjust, it wasn't just physical, it was surrender, complete and total. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his arms wrapped around me, my head on his chest. I could hear his heartbeat steady, strong. Are you all right? He asked softly. Yes. Did I hurt you? No. I tilted my head to look up at him. Are you all right? A faint smile touched his lips. Why wouldn't I be? You look, I don't know, worried. He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my shoulder. I'm not worried, he said finally. I'm terrified. Of what? Of how much this means to me, he admitted. Of what I'd do to keep you. I pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. You already keep me, I whispered. His arms tightened around me. I'm never letting you go, he said. And it wasn't a threat. It was a vow. I woke to an empty bed. Panic flared before I saw the note on the pillow. Meeting. Back by noon. Stay with Marco. D. I showered and dressed, my body still humming from the night before. Everything felt different. Sharper. More real. Like I'd crossed an invisible line and couldn't go back. Marco was waiting outside the door when I emerged. Morning, miss. Morning. Any word from Dante? He'll be back on schedule. I spent the morning in the library, trying to read, but my mind kept drifting to the way Dante had looked at me, touched me, held me like I was something irreplaceable. Noon came and went. Then 1 o'clock. Marco's phone rang. He answered, his expression tightening. Understood. He hung up and turned to me. There's been a complication. Mr. Moretti is delayed. What kind of complication? Nothing to worry about. But his hand rested on his gun. Dante didn't return until evening. When he finally walked through the door, my relief was overwhelming. I crossed to him without thinking, and he caught me, pulling me into his arms. I'm fine, he murmured into my hair. Marco said there was a complication. There was. It's handled. But when he pulled back, I saw the bruise blooming along his jaw, the split in his lip. Dante. It's nothing. It's not nothing. Mia. His tone was gentle but firm. This is my life. I need you to accept that. I do accept it. That doesn't mean I have to like it. He smiled faintly. Fair enough. He led me upstairs, to his room, and I watched as he stripped off his jacket, his shirt, revealing more bruises across his ribs. Let me help, I said. I'm fine. Let me help, I repeated. He relented. I cleaned the cuts carefully, my hands gentle, my heart aching. Who did this? I asked quietly. Someone who wanted to send a message. What message? That they know about you. My breath caught. What? He took my hands, stopping their trembling. It's fine. I sent a message back. What kind of message? His eyes darkened. The kind that ensures it won't happen again. I didn't ask for details. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. That night, everything shattered. We were asleep when the explosions hit. Not gunfire this time. Bombs. The windows shattered inward, and Dante threw himself over me, shielding me from the glass. Alarms screamed. Stay down, he ordered, rolling off me, grabbing the gun from his nightstand. Dante, stay here. Lock the door behind me. No, but he was already gone. I locked the door with shaking hands and crouched behind the bed, my heart hammering. The sounds from below were chaos. Gunfire, shouts, more explosions. Minutes felt like hours. Then the door handle rattled. Mia, it's Marco. Open up. I unlocked it, and he pulled me into the hallway. We need to move. Now. Where's Dante? Handling it. Let's go. He led me through the smoke-filled house, down a back staircase I didn't know existed. We emerged into the garage, and he pushed me toward a car. Get in. A gunshot. Marco staggered, blood blooming across his shoulder. I screamed. Another figure appeared, a man I didn't recognize, gun raised. And then Dante was there. He moved like death itself. The intruder didn't even have time to turn before Dante disarmed him, broke his wrist, and put a bullet through his skull. Marco collapsed against the car, and Dante caught him. I'm fine, Marco gasped. Get her out. You're coming too. Someone has to stay and coordinate. Go. Dante hesitated for only a second. Then he turned to me, his eyes fierce. Car, now. I obeyed. He slid into the driver's seat, and we tore out of the garage, through the gates, into the night. Behind us, his house burned. He drove for an hour, constantly checking the mirrors, taking random turns. Finally, he pulled into an underground parking garage and killed the engine. Silence. Are you hurt? He asked, turning to me. I shook my head, unable to speak. He pulled me across the console and into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. I'm sorry, he said into my hair. I'm so fucking sorry. It's not your fault. It is. All of this is my fault. Dante. He pulled back, cupping my face, his eyes burning with something raw and desperate. I should let you go, he said. I should put you on a plane and send you somewhere safe. I'm not leaving you. Mia. I'm not, I said firmly. I don't care how dangerous it is. You should care, but I don't. I covered his hands with mine. I choose you. I choose this. He kissed me hard, desperately, like he was drowning and I was air. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against mine. I won't survive losing you, he whispered. Then don't lose me. We went to a safe house in the mountains. Small, remote, off the grid. Dante made calls coordinating, strategizing, rebuilding. Marco survived. The house was a loss, but most of his men made it out. It was the Marchesi family, he told me on the third day. Vittorio's father authorized the hit. Why? Because I refused to give you up. My breath caught. What? He set down his phone and turned to face me. They offered a truce. In exchange for you. And you said no. Of course I said no. Dante, you should have... Should have what? His voice turned hard. Should have handed you over to be used as leverage? Or worse. Your men were hurt because of me. My men were hurt because of a war that started long before you spilled wine on my shirt, he interrupted. Don't take that guilt on yourself. But... He crossed to me, gripping my shoulders. Listen to me, he said firmly. I don't regret protecting you. I don't regret any of it, and I never will. Tears burned my eyes. I don't know how to live in this world, I whispered. You don't have to. I'll handle the darkness. You just have to stay with me. What if staying with you gets me killed? Something painful flashed across his face. Then I'll die first, he said quietly. We stayed at the safe house for 2 weeks. Slowly, Dante rebuilt his network, called in favors, repositioned his pieces, and I watched him transform, not into the man I'd come to love, but into the Don he was born to be. Cold, calculating, ruthless. It should have scared me. Instead, I understood. This was survival. I'm going after them, he told me one night. We sat by the fireplace, the flames casting shadows across his face. When? I asked. Soon. Will it end the war? It'll end Vittorio's line. The rest will fall in line or die. I looked at him, this man who'd killed for me, bled for me, burned his world down to keep me safe. What happens to us after? I asked quietly. He turned to face me, his eyes softening. Whatever you want, he said. If you want to leave, I'll set you up somewhere safe. Give you money, protection, a new identity. You'll never have to see me again. My heart clenched. And if I want to stay, then you stay, he said simply. As my partner, my equal, mine. The weight of that word settled over me. What does that mean? Being yours? It means I protect you, provide for you, kill for you. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. It means you're the only person in this world I answer to. That's a lot of power. You already have it, he said quietly. You've had it since the beginning. I searched his eyes. I don't want to leave, I said. Are you sure? Yes. Even knowing what I am? What I'll always be? Especially knowing that, I said. Because I've seen who you are beneath it all. His hand cupped my face. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, he said, or the most foolish. Maybe both. He smiled a real smile, rare and beautiful, and kissed me. Then stay, he whispered against my lips. Stay with me. Always, I promised. 3 days later, Dante left before dawn. He kissed me goodbye, his touch lingering. I'll be back by tonight, he said. Be careful. Always am. But the look in his eyes told me this was different. This was the endgame. I spent the day in agony. Every hour that passed felt like a lifetime. Marco stayed with me, silent and watchful. Night fell. Then midnight. My phone finally rang. It's done, Dante's voice said. Tired, rough, alive. Relief crashed through me. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. I'm coming home. Home. The word wrapped around my heart. I'll be waiting, I said. He arrived just before dawn, covered in blood that wasn't his, exhaustion carved into every line of his body. I didn't ask questions. I just helped him into the shower, washed the blood away, held him when his hands started to shake. It's over, he said quietly. Good. I killed 8 men tonight, Mia. I know. Does that bother you? I looked into his eyes, those dark, dangerous, beautiful eyes. It should, I admitted. But it doesn't. Why? Because they would have killed you, killed me. And I'm selfish enough to want you alive. He pulled me close, his face buried in my hair. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Too bad, I said. You're stuck with me. He laughed a low, broken sound and held me tighter. 3 months later, we returned to the city. To a new house, smaller than the estate, but still fortified. Still safe. Dante consolidated his power. The Marchesi family fractured, and the survivors bent the knee or disappeared. The war was over, but peace in this world was never clean. I have something for you, Dante said one evening. We were in the study, him at his desk, me curled up on the sofa with a book. He pulled out a small box and crossed to me. My heart stuttered. It's not what you think, he said with a faint smile. He opened the box. Inside was a key. To what? I asked. The bookstore. I looked up, confused. I bought it, he said. It's yours. You can reopen it. Run it however you want, or sell it. Whatever you choose. Tears burned my eyes. Why? Because you gave up your life for mine, he said quietly. This is me giving something back. I threw my arms around him, and he caught me, holding me close. Thank you, I whispered. Anything for you, he murmured. Always. Life settled into something almost normal. I reopened the bookstore. Dante came by sometimes, sitting in the corner with a book, his presence keeping away anyone who might cause trouble. At night, we went home together, to our house, our life, but the danger never fully disappeared. It couldn't, not in his world. One night, 6 months after we'd returned, Dante came home tense. What's wrong? I asked. There's a new family moving into the territory, he said. From overseas. They're not interested in peace. My stomach sank. What does that mean? It means I need to handle it before it becomes a problem. How? His jaw tightened. The way I always do. I crossed to him, taking his hands. Will it ever truly end? I asked quietly. No, he said honestly. There will always be another threat, another rival, another war. And you'll always have to fight. Yes. I looked into his eyes, the man I loved, the monster he believed himself to be. Then I'll be here, I said, through all of it. It's not too late to leave, Mia. I can still set you free. I don't want to be free, I said firmly. I want to be with you. His hands tightened on mine. Even if it costs you everything? You are everything, I whispered. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, and full of promises we both knew might be broken. But we made them anyway. A year later, I stood in the bookstore, shelving returns, when the door chimed. A woman walked in, elegant, dangerous, with cold eyes. Mia Harlow? She asked. My blood ran cold. Who's asking? Someone with a message for Dante Moretti. She smiled, sharp and cruel. Tell him the Volkov family sends their regards. She turned and left before I could respond. I called Dante immediately. I'm on my way, he said, his voice tight. He arrived 10 minutes later. Marco and 2 other men with him. What did she say? He demanded. I told him. His expression turned lethal. Get your things. We're leaving. Don't. Now, Mia. I obeyed. In the car, he was silent, his jaw clenched. Talk to me, I said quietly. The Volkovs are the most dangerous family in Europe, he said. If they're here, it means war. Then we'll survive it, I said. Like we survived everything else. He looked at me, and something vulnerable flashed across his face. I can't lose you, he said. You won't. You don't know that. Neither do you. I took his hand. But we're in this together. Always. He kissed my knuckles, his lips lingering. Always, he echoed. The war with the Volkovs lasted 8 months. It was brutal, bloody, relentless. But Dante won. He always did. At a cost. More scars, more nightmares, more blood on his hands. But through it all, I stayed. Because I'd chosen this life. Chosen him. And I didn't regret it. We stood on the balcony of our home, overlooking the city. His arm was wrapped around me, holding me close. Do you ever wish things were different? He asked quietly. Sometimes, I admitted. But not enough to change anything. He pressed a kiss to my temple. I love you, he said. 3 words he'd never said before. 3 words that meant everything. I love you too, I whispered. We stood there in the darkness. 2 souls bound together by violence and choice and something deeper than either. The city glittered below us, beautiful and dangerous. Just like our life. Just like us. And somewhere in the shadows, I knew another threat was waiting. There always would be. But we'd face it together. Always.